absolutely ridiculous. They'll believe anything. They'll believe anything. Maybe. Do you feel like the world has gone mad? Many people feel this at the moment. Whether it's to do with politics or the climate or anything, it just seems like people have some really strange and different ideas, and it's hard for us to understand each other. So today we're going to get into this. So everybody, welcome back to the Mei Xiangfa channel. And yeah, Abby, how are you?
Welcome back. Yeah, it's a great Saturday afternoon.
It is.
Yes.
It's actually a shame that we're doing this today because the weather is so good outside in the middle of winter, right? I think it's like 25 degrees and sunny, so yeah.
But
And I see you've got our mascot there.
Oi,
Yeah.
hi everyone.
He still needs a name, so maybe somebody can give us a comment and help us with a nice, cool
Okay.
name specific for Taiwan. That would be pretty good. Right, so anyway, let's get into this. So yeah, as I said, people, seem to be going crazy. And I think a lot of us might be wondering why. And I think that the answers seem quite elusive. This doesn't make sense, right, Abby? I mean, can you think why people seem to have such different opinions and believe such different things? It doesn't seem normal to me.
It's not normal, but I think people are really different. So it's and people have a different background and life experience.
Sure.
So
But I mean, that was the same 10 years ago, but it seems so different now. Right.
for me, I think there one thing is really strange because sometimes what I think is like really logic and it's obvious, but
It's not logical and obvious to others, right?
yes.
That's what I'm talking about. That wasn't always like this. I mean, people used to agree a whole lot more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, the reason I'm asking these questions is I'm going to try and see, because I think I've found something which explains a lot of this. And I've prepared some materials. And, yeah, hopefully we can shed some light on this. And maybe people can say, oh, wow, look at that. Look what might be happening. It might help some people. So, yeah, but anyway, before we do that, please give us a like, a share, a subscribe. Anything you can do will help us. And we can provide better and better content. So, you want to say that in Chinese for us?
OK 如果你喜欢我们的频道还有内容的话，欢迎帮我们按赞、分享还有订阅，然后这样子也可以帮助我们更有动力去制作这些影片。
Right, so Abby, I'm going to get right into this with a question for you.
OK，
I know we've talked about blame before and how blame is particularly strong here in Taiwan.
Oh, alright.
But I want to ask you a question. Have you or has anyone you know ever, from what you've seen, gone through a really difficult time and for some reason put all the blame onto one thing, onto one person? Has this happened to you?
You mean happen on me?
To you or someone that
Or
you know,
someone
something
around
like
me?
that, yeah. It's like they're going through a tough time, but they seem to be putting all the blame onto one thing.
Yes, I think it's common.
Very common, right?
Very
Yeah.
common because it's much easier for the people to like relieve their pressure, like
I mean, if they have somewhere to direct it, right?
yeah.
Sure. I think this happens actually a lot in like people getting divorced. I know when I got divorced a few years ago, that was it. It was just that person. And it's like if I could get away from that person, that was going to fix all my problems, right?
It's especially it's
Yeah.
common in relationship.
Sure.
Everyone, most of people when they broke up, they will blame is the another person's fault. It's what he or she did something wrong, or just like a personality or the family membership or any kind of thing. They just can
Blame.
blame.
I think sometimes I see people who want to change jobs, and they also seem to think that if they just change jobs, that's going to help them, right? It's just going to fix all the problems in their life.
They give their hope into the movement because they think they need to do some change. So they put all of hope on this job changing.
So I mean, today I've made a little bit of some like slides so that people can have a look. And the one thing I saw from reading some articles, a lot of people agree that you can see there, blame is toxic thinking. It can ruin your life. And what people do a lot is just say, this thing is the reason for all my problems. So what happens then? 'Cause I know that when this has happened to me, I often have had someone to talk to. And when I've talked to someone, the person has been able to look at what I've been saying to them and they said, you know what, man, that doesn't seem quite right. I mean, it looks like you're blaming everything on that person, right? So we have somebody there who can see the logic because we're so emotional in those times, and they can kind of help us to snap out of it. You know, they can show us and just put a question there. And hopefully when they put that question, like it just creates some doubt and you start looking at things in a more balanced way and realize, okay, there is this problem in my life, but that's not the sole reason for all my problems. What do you think?
You mean like blame to someone is like a way to...
Well, I mean, no, like let's say, so for me, I was blaming someone for all my problems. And then I talked to a friend about it. And the friend can often look at that situation and say, this doesn't make sense, man. Like, I know you're unhappy. I can see you're unhappy. I feel really bad that you feel so unhappy. But it's a bit strange to put all of the blame onto this one person, right?
Yeah, it's like a how to say, 击掌. It's like it couldn't do it on only one hand.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Sure.
Like
So your friends or your family members or somebody is there to snap you out of it and say, yes, that is a problem, but it's not the problem. It's not like if you just fix that one thing, all your problems are going to go away. It's not fair to blame it all there.
Yeah, that's true.
So that leads me to another question here, right? Which is, what happens if a whole lot of people are all going through a problem and all those people blame the same thing? What happens then?
I think they will lose the true problem they have to fix, because instead of blaming, they have to figure out how to solve the problem or figure out what the other possible root cause or reason behind it. But if they only think about blaming some certain things or person, then they will forget to do all of the things they have to.
Sure, but then also they'll all talk with one another and there won't be anybody there to snap them out of it because they'll all be blaming that same
because
person.
They all on the same ship. Yeah, no one is like awake to say, hey, no, we should like...
Sure, and that's going to be pretty dangerous. I mean, imagine, let's say, if men in society all together, like a large percentage of men, started blaming women for all their problems. In that state, everybody's blaming women. They're all talking, saying women are bad. They might land up doing some pretty terrible stuff to women. Because they can't be objective, because all of them are just blaming all their problems on women, for instance. Or women are all blaming men for their problem. It doesn't matter what it is, but that would be a mass, right? Not one person, but a mass of people all believing something that probably isn't true, because you can't ever blame one person or one thing for everything wrong in your life, right?
Okay. I think if like a certain amount of the people have the same ideas, like blaming to something, when you reach the certain level, and then it will then when the new people join to the group, they will follow the same ideas,
Sure.
They will not question them.
So let me give you and the viewers an example of this. There was a group of people once who blamed Jewish people for everything wrong in their lives.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, we all know what happened there, right? I mean, it wasn't logical. I mean, but people, I think, believed that Jewish people had money and they didn't, and Jewish people were the root of all their problems. And not everybody believed it. As you say, some people went along with it, but a lot of people believed it. And it's a pity now because one person seems to get the blame. But actually, it was a lot of people who all in a mass believed the same thing. Makes sense, right?
Yeah. That's a...
They'll put the blame all onto one group very unfairly, but there was no way to snap these people out of it because there were so many of them all believing the same thing at the same time, and then a whole lot of people, like you said, just agreeing with it because they didn't want to be different.
That's a really big example to these topics because like Hitler, he couldn't only do those things by
himself,
right?
Yeah.
And so lots of German people helped him. And after the killing finished, lots of people asked those German people, why you do?
And I don't think they could really explain it, right?
They couldn't explain it.
So I think that this is a very good example, and it leads us into one of our topics today, which is going to be mass formation. But the main topic for today is something I'm going to try and prove to Abby, which is we are fighting the wrong virus. I know that sounds a bit strange, but you'll see by the end. Hopefully I can convince you of this, right? So as we said, so mass formation. So I think you can kind of get what I was already saying. Mass means a lot of people, and a formation might just be another word for a group. Okay, people forming into a group.
A narrative.
Sure. So let's have a look at one of these slides I've made. So mass formation. Now what I want to show people first is that for mass formation to happen, you need to have 4 criteria met.
Okay.
The first one, you see it here, social isolation. You need people to feel isolated and alone.
Like you don't have you have no access to contact other people.
I don't think it's specifically like that, because you can feel very lonely in a room full of people. Okay, I just spoke with somebody about this yesterday, and I was saying, when you go to work, do you feel lonely? And the person said yes. So, but you're surrounded by people. Said, yeah, because those people are not really friends. A lot of them are competitors, and you can't really share your true feelings. So work, I don't think counts. It does for some people, but for a lot of people it doesn't. So it doesn't mean that you don't have access to people. It could mean that. But social isolation, I mean, through social media and through technology, you can contact people across the world. But it's hard to contact people next to you because of social media. So some kind of social isolation, your relationships are not that good. You don't have that access to relationships. Right, then the second one, a lack of sense-making in individual lives. Sense-making is the process by which people give meaning to their collective experiences. Okay, and we're going to talk about these in some more detail. The third one is the abundant presence of free-floating anxiety.
Free-floating?
Yeah, you can see it. I've put it here. It's an anxiety that cannot be pinned or attached to any specific issue.
They don't know where the anxious
So you feel anxiety. You might not know exactly where, but you just have that feeling that things aren't right.
Something wrong, but
which everybody I think has experienced at some point, right? And then similarly, at the same time, you have an abundance of free-floating psychological discontent. So just not happy about the way things are going. So when a whole lot of people all feel these things, this is when society is, ripe or ready for a mass formation to happen.
I think because they are more easy to manipulate it.
So if a person by themselves, like in a bad marriage, feels these things, then it's just going to be for one person. But mass formation is when people as a society feel like this.
All right.
Okay. And then when this happens, this is kind of, it allows things like what happened in Germany, what happened in China, what happened in the Soviet Union with the Bolsheviks to happen. Okay, we're going to get into this in a minute, right? So you can see it here. This person, it's actually a professor called Matthias Desmet, a guy from Belgium, and he's studied this for a long time, and that's how I've learned about this. So he says here, if these 4 factors are present in enough members of any given society, the society in question is at risk for the crystallizing action of mass formation, where large numbers of disconnected, anxious, confused, and isolated people simultaneously seize upon some single apparent threat and give it their entire attention and energy. So like I said to you in the beginning, you're blaming one person or one thing for all the problems in your life, and this is when a whole lot of people do just that, like I said to you in the beginning.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, good. So now let's talk about the risks. We've already mentioned this. The biggest risk from these is totalitarianism. Do you know totalitarianism?
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So I've given it to people here. It's a form of government and a political system that prohibits all opposition parties, outlaws individual opposition to the state and its claims, and exercises an extremely high degree of control and regulation over public and private life. It's regarded as the most extreme and complete form of authoritarianism. Okay, so this is basically somebody or some system trying to control every part of everybody's lives. I watched a video from somebody, a woman who'd escaped North Korea. And you can see
North
from this
Korea.
example, this woman, they said to her, what's your favorite color when she escaped? And she said, well, they told me it's red.
Huh? Oh, all right.
Everything can be controlled, right? Even your favorite color is assigned to you.
Assigned?
And if you think
Yeah.
about what happened in China's Cultural Revolution, this kind of stuff happened. If you looked at what happened with the Bolsheviks in, I think, 1919, around there. All these different examples, you know, more or less, you get somebody trying to control everything. Like, what was it in China? It was the 4 C's or something, the 4 evils. The culture, and your culture was wrong. You had to believe a certain culture. And I think that for the Bolsheviks, it was like capitalism was wrong. My history is not that good with this. But
they just try to make people more robotics.
yeah, so they control what you think. Control what you think, control what you believe, control what you do, control how you act. Totalitarianism basically is all about control.
Okay.
And that's the
details.
risk, is that how does totalitarianism happen? It happens when you first need to have a mass formation. That's the thing that happens first, is you get a mass formation,
All right.
and then you get totalitarianism. Now, look, this can, from what I've read, this can happen naturally. This doesn't need to have somebody driving it, trying to make it happen. But it also can be exploited by a bad person trying to make it happen. So I think, from what I've read about Chairman Mao, I think that his, what's the thing he did before the problems? He had this program to try and make China's economy do well. The Great Leap Forward.
They want to
accelerate the growth.
Western countries. They want to win.
Sure. And then that failed and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And then I think he, from what it looks like, is that he purposefully tried to do this. I think he knew what he was doing, and it looks like he tried to use the mass formation to make totalitarianism happen. But again, I don't think it always has to be somebody intentionally doing it.
Oh, you mean because he wanted to win?
He wanted power.
He wanted power,
Sure.
so that's why he make the society follow him.
Sure. And this is different to a dictatorship. A dictatorship is like where one person is trying to rule the whole country. You know, the dictator is trying to get power for himself. And a dictator, when he gets power, often will relax a little bit. Because once he's got power, he wants to keep power. And he wants the people to believe in him. But totalitarianism is quite different. Because most of the bad stuff happens after they get the power. That's when those terrible things throughout history happen. Because it's kind of like this thing has momentum and it can't stop. And it starts to eat itself. And the people who were okay and who were part of the side that was okay for a while, once they run out of victims, they start eating their own people.
You mean it's like a snowball when
Exactly.
you're rolling and
Yeah.
you gotta eat all of things?
Yeah. And that's a big difference between a totalitarianism and a dictatorship. Not that either of them are good, but yeah. Okay. So we're talking about mass formation. We're talking about totalitarianism.
Right.
And you can see what happens is that people get this kind of mental intoxication. Okay? So if we just think about what's happening here, it's a group of people who feel those 4 things that we just mentioned. So people are basically, how would you summarize that? People are just basically unhappy, don't have hope for their lives,
They don't know what to do.
feel isolated,
Okay, yeah.
and all that. So a group of unhappy people, and they're looking for an answer. They're looking for something to make their lives better.
Okay.
And just like we said, the person in the unhappy marriage focuses on the person. They're also just looking for something simple, something they can put their blame on, and something that they can fight. And
you mean give them some goal, some purpose.
some goal, something that will help to
Or-
fix their problem,
Or
right?
otherwise, they're gonna float
Sure.
in the world. They don't know what to do.
And often it's illogical. Like, it's not logical to think that one person is the result of all the problems in your life. Same thing, right?
Agree.
So they get this kind of mental, and you see it here, mental intoxication. If you are drunk, you are intoxicated, right? So that's where that word comes from. So what happens is, and you can see the effects of this mental intoxication, a narrowing of your field of attention.
You only focus on...
you can't see the other stuff. You're focused now. It's on that. So in a marriage, that bad person. Here, it's whatever these people are focused on. It's women or it's men or whatever it is that these people are focusing on. They're now narrow. They focus on that thing. You can see it makes people only see what is indicated by the mainstream narrative. That mainstream there doesn't have to be mainstream news. It's just whatever that mainstream narrative is. Women are bad, men are bad, these people are bad, capitalism is bad, whatever it is,
the mainstream.
They can only see that. And a good example here is they see the victims of the coronavirus, but they do not seem to see at the cognitive level the collateral damage of the victims claimed by lockdowns. So they can't see the people being hurt by lockdowns, let's say. All they can see is victims of the virus because their focus has been so narrowed.
Okay, but
cognitive level means like your conscious brain, kind of, not your subconscious, but your cognitive level. So it's like they're so focused on the people who are dying because of the virus that they can't see that there are people also getting hurt from lockdowns. Let's say people who are committing suicide.
They forgot there's other people suffered from the lockdown.
Although I wouldn't say it's forgot. It's just because of this phenomenon, the field narrows and they're just focused on that one thing. So if we go back to like the marriage, the guy or the girl is focused on the partner. But there are other things happening they just don't see because they're so focused on this one thing.
All right.
So they're kind of drunk and focused on this one thing. Okay, good. So you see here, mass formation, what it does is it focuses your attention so much on one point that you can take everything from people. You can take their psychological and their physical well-being and their health, their material well-being, their possessions. They won't notice anything. You can take everything from people when they're in this mass formation.
It's like because they're only focused on the certain things, so other things they don't care or they just ignore. So
because they want to be safe, let's say. So you can take their rights away. You can take they can't go to restaurants anymore. They can't do this. They can't see their friends. You can take it all away from them because they're so focused on this one thing that they don't mind what you take away. Doesn't that sound so much like what's happening right now?
So you mean they probably notice, but they just don't really...
They almost don't mind.
Don't mind. I
so
just think that maybe just like
a
short time thing. They just find.
Well, see, but that's the logic there. I don't even think that the logic comes into it. It's just we need to fix this problem. We need to fix this problem. This problem. Take whatever you want. And this isn't a logical thing. This is the thing that's happening in people's brains. So you have to get that. It's kind of like hypnosis, Abby, you are getting very sleepy. That kind of hypnosis thing. One thing that's interesting about hypnosis, this is kind of hypnosis, is do you know that you can do surgery on somebody with no pain medication using hypnosis?
Oh.
Yeah, you can do that. I've read about this for years. Under hypnosis, people won't feel pain. If you focus the mind through hypnosis on one thing, the pain that's happening, like I've been to a show once, and they took a guy who was hypnotized, and they took a dahoji, a lighter, and they put the lighter under his hand, and they just left it there. And he didn't move, he didn't feel anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the brain is very, very interesting in this way. Like if you focus the brain, it seems, in a certain area, it almost won't realize what's happening to it.
It's like when we hurt at somewhere, like some part of our bodies, and you just punch another side of your body, and then we forgot the original pain for.
Sure, and you see kids sometimes, they'll hurt themselves and it will be bleeding and whatever.
Yeah.
And they won't even know. And you'll say, hey, look, you're bleeding. And then they'll start crying because they didn't feel it because they didn't know it had happened.
They didn't notice.
Right. So our attention is very interesting in this way, right?
Interesting.
So the next question we have here is, how do people react to opposing voices?
Okay.
All right. So let's go back to this like marriage example. So you're blaming your wife, let's say, for everything wrong. And you're so into this, you're so unhappy, you're blaming it. And now someone comes and they're saying, man, it's not her. You're part of this problem. How do you think that person's going to react?
So, no, you don't understand.
Exactly. So
You are not me. Just don't understand.
So under mass hypnosis, okay, mass formation and the subsequent totalitarianism, people become radically intolerant of different dissident voices. So someone tells another story or claims the official story is wrong, then this dissenting person threatens to wake them up. And then they get angry because if you wake them up, now they're going to be confronted by the original problems. Okay, so with the initial anxiety and the initial psychological discontent. So the thing that you're unhappy about is going to come back because now I'm taking away the thing that you're putting all the blame on. And if I take that away, now you're going to feel hopeless again.
Okay.
So it's a threat to people. Once people, if you try and show people that they're wrong, if they're wrong, then they've got to say, oh, well, now I don't have this answer. Now I don't have this place to put the blame.
Like the ex didn't do anything wrong. Like it's like you do.
Sure.
You did.
Yeah.
You have to take part of the responsible. Yeah.
Sure. So you see here, they direct all their aggression at these dissonant voices. So all their anger is pointed at these people. Okay. And at the same time, they are radically tolerant for the leaders, for the people who pronounce the mainstream narrative. So all the people who are then agreeing and say, yeah, your wife's terrible, man. Oh, what a bitch. She's terrible. Very, very tolerant of these people. But anybody who's saying, man, listen, you've got to look at yourself. It's not only her, it's your part. You're going to be angry at those people.
Yeah.
Right. It's nice that I think using this kind of marriage idea seems to have
because
been a nice
lots
way
of people
to
have
explain
a similar
it. Yeah.
idea.
Okay. So that's how people react. So let's do a quick summary. Joining with others to deal with a perceived crisis extinguishes the social isolation problem that plagues many people. So you feel isolated, you feel unhappy, but now we give you this one thing to blame, and a whole lot of people together with you are all blaming it. Now you're together. Now you have connection. Now you're with a whole group of people fighting this thing. You don't feel lonely anymore. You don't feel like you don't have a purpose. You have a purpose now.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so the four problems have now been temporarily taken away because you've now joined the fight.
Okay, the feeling is like a AA, like Accord Association.
I suppose, in a way, right? Yeah, you build this new connection. And then having a concrete and apparently serious problem to deal with provides sense-making and a home for any previous free-floating anxiety. So now that you know what the problem is, you're not saying, I feel something is wrong, but I don't know what it is. No, you know what it is. So the free-floating anxiety is not free-floating. It's pointed at something. So you know, well, you think you know what the problem is. And you have something to direct all your feelings towards. And then working on an evidently serious problem jointly with the rest of humanity makes the discontented, basically unhappy, at least temporarily happy. We're together, we're fighting this problem, we're all together, so now you feel kind of happy because you've got a point to your life.
You've got something to do.
Yeah,
in
you
your
have
life.
a point, you have a reason for what you're doing, you have a group of people you're doing it with.
It's got meaningful.
It's meaningful, yeah. But unfortunately, as we talked about some of those examples, this never ends well.
Okay, right. For me, it's like something like a cult, like
yeah. Although a cult, I think, often has like a leader who's guiding this. This doesn't have to have a leader.
Or they want.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't have a leader.
It doesn't have to, right? It can have somebody manipulating it, but it also doesn't need to have that, because what is really going on is that the root cause of this whole thing is people being unhappy.
Yes.
If everybody in your society is feeling good, this won't happen.
If everyone is happy, it won't happen.
Sure.
Right.
If people are enjoying their lives, building families, doing all the things that people should do, and the majority of people feel pretty happy, this can't happen.
Okay, it makes me think about some mental group, but some of the mental groups, they are cheater.
Okay, mental group. What do you mean?
Mentally, it's like a groups they teach people how to look at inside, or
You mean a psychologist?
psychologist.
Or like a support group?
It more like a class.
Okay.
And some teacher will teach you how to discover yourself.
Like self-help.
Self-help.
Okay, I
but
see.
they play a little bit different because they all know that the students come to here needs help because they are unhappy.
So maybe AA, maybe.
It's like AA, but what I say what they manipulated these people because they isolated themselves. They don't allow them to contact other people outside the group. And they will try
this
to.
is a cult, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, they will try to charge them. At first, probably at the first 1 or 2 times, they it's free or it's this small amount of money. But after that, they will charge a lot of money. And those people are, because they are they're desperate, and they said really. You need to connect the group. So they found a home. So they would pay a lot of money into the group.
Okay, so that sounds like people who take advantage of unhappy people by providing them what looks like a solution.
Yeah.
And it's free in the beginning, and then once they've got you on the hook, then they start charging you the money, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that could be a small example of a mass formation, because it's like probably 20 people in a class. So it's 20 people, and you can already see the power. Imagine if that's 20 people and they can exploit them. Imagine if it's 20 million people.
Oh,
and then you see the true power of what can happen, and then that explains a lot about what happened in China. Because I see some of those people in China, they were like young kids, they're killing their teachers.
Killing the teachers?
Yeah, I've seen videos, and sending their own parents to the government, and they knew that their parents
you know the history.
Yeah, in history.
The Cultural Revolution.
Yeah, the Cultural Revolution.
Uh-huh.
And then later, like people, as you said, they asked them, why did you guys do this? Like, I don't know, I was just following whatever happened.
Yeah, the Red Guard, they have no idea why they are doing that.
And that shows you the power of mass formation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The same thing can applied on Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
I think
Nazi
those Red
Germany,
Guards,
Cultural Revolution, all these types of things started with a mass formation.
Okay.
Okay, good. Now, another interesting question we should ask people is, who is more susceptible to this? Because I think a lot of people, because some people don't get hypnotized. And then people might think, okay, so you're a better person or you're smarter. Actually, it's not true at all. So from what they've shown, 30% of people are highly susceptible to mass hypnosis. So susceptible means it can happen to you pretty easily. So 30% of people, this can happen to very, very easily.
Okay.
35 to 45% of people don't want to speak up. They don't want to be different. They don't want to speak up against the mainstream narrative.
You mean they don't agree, but they just don't want to speak up?
Yeah.
Is that
or I don't know if they do agree or don't agree, but they're not hypnotized. They're not part of the mass hypnosis. They're not part of the mass formation, but they go with it.
Okay.
Okay, they might later become part of it, but they are not that
they're
susceptible.
In the middle.
They're to the hypnosis, yeah. So they're not part of the mass formation, but they don't do anything about it. And then 20 to 30% of people aren't susceptible to hypnosis, and they don't accept the narrative, and they also might speak up in certain situations.
Okay. I see.
But why? As I said, it's not based on intelligence. And what they think is it's possibly based on how people try to establish psychological stability. So people do this in two different ways. One is by going along with the group. Some people, that's how they establish psychological stability. They go along with the group. Other people do it by staying very close to what they think is reasonable, what they think. Now, I have heard some nice explanations for this, which make some sense, which is when you're young, particularly, if you feel like your trust was broken by the authority figures, that could affect you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
That happened to me. Because I often think to myself, like, why like I can't be hypnotized. I've tried. I've gone to the shows, and the guy did it for everybody, and everybody else, and a whole lot of the people, I fell asleep and doing stupid things. So I was like, dude, nothing. So some people are just not that susceptible to hypnosis. And I guess that part of that is, I've read this, they say that it might be, they're not sure, but it might be if your trust had been broken before, then possibly you just have a deep distrust for authority and you rather trust yourself than the group. And if that's happened to you, it seems to make sense.
Makes
right?
sense. Yeah.
Makes
because it's experience,
sense.
right?
Yeah. And then again, this is only 20 to 30% of people. Okay. And so I think we kind of understand this now. I think, do you feel like from what I've explained, this mass formation, you kind of have a good
kind of
understanding?
imagine a foundation, build up some foundation.
Okay. So let's go back to those 4 things and let's look at Taiwanese society and also just worldwide. Do you think people feel isolated? And let's even talk about before COVID. You think people feel isolated and lonely?
For me, I think so. When people are getting older, I mean, when they left school, they went to workforce. So sometimes the society group they have to build up by themselves, except for the working environment. If you want a social life, you have to build up by yourself.
Sure.
Right. I think at the moment, especially when people are growing up, they probably have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or when to get married and have children. So your your social group gonna shrink.
Sure. And I think that's not a static thing. That changes all the time, right? So I know that if in my business, the clients who come, the one thing I've seen over the last few years is that people are working way more and spending less and less time with friends. Just from when I ask people, hey, how was your weekend? What did you do? So many people now are saying to me, I just worked. And I think that we'll talk about it a little bit later. There are reasons why people feel like they need to work more. Because I think back to when I was a kid, like I looked at my uncles. My uncles worked.
Okay.
They had children and wives, and they bought a house.
Yeah.
And they were doing all those things. And that was kind of at my age or even a bit younger. I'm not doing most of those things. Most of my time is spent at work. So in the past, I think people had a lot more disposable free time to spend doing other things. I remember watching one of my uncles. He'd bought like a wall unit, like furniture for the TV. And I remember him putting lights and wiring it by himself. And that's a really great thing to do. But I don't see many people having the time to actually do that these days. Plus spend with your wife, plus spend with your children, plus go on holidays and do things. I don't see people having that kind of a life at the moment. They spend way more time. The percentage of time is working.
I think it's like a circle because you don't know what to do, but you have time. So you think, what can I do? So it's better to put into the work because at least it can give me some money, or at least it looks like I have a goal, I have a purpose.
Sure.
Just like feel the
Sure.
the
But how
plan.
many people go for like drinks after work with friends? I know very few people in Taiwan who do this.
Few.
Yeah. And how many people get together for a barbecue in the weekends or invite people over to their house? I don't see this happening nearly as often. And then you see these movies, what was that, The Social Dilemma?
Oh.
And they were showing
the
how
documentary.
people are getting more and more lonely, feeling more and more isolated. So I think this is pretty common. So we can say, yes, the isolation is one. What about people feeling that their lives have meaning? Do you think people feel that their lives have meaning these days?
I don't think they really search by themselves. What if you ask those people? You ask people, most of them answer will be like more like a typical answer.
What does it mean?
The society's expectation.
Okay.
My meaning is the meaning is for the family, for the kids, for the earning more money, for living a better life.
Okay, so there's very little meaning coming from jobs. Like meaning for your life. Like you feel like what you're doing is benefiting humanity in some way. Meaning. So a statistic is 40 to 70% of people experience their jobs as completely senseless. It's just I'm going to a place to make money. It's just that's all. The only reason I'm going there. Yeah, I've checked it out. That's one of the statistics that I found. They say increasingly more and more people just feel like their jobs have no real meaning. It's like I'm doing something, some numbers or this
just
or that.
For money.
It's just for money. I'm just going there just to make money every day, right?
Or maybe sometimes there's feeling of success, no, achievement.
Sure, but what does that mean? A feeling of achievement? Is that purely a money thing? Because like in my work, a large part of the achievement that I feel is I feel like I've helped somebody, not just making the money, but when I've helped somebody.
Yeah,
right?
or just like when you done something, like I did a great job, and everyone are benefit from that.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just a money thing, but I think it's
Yeah.
moved more and more, like you were saying, it's just about a money thing for a lot of people. Like, that's why you work, just to make money. And part of my job is helping people to have interviews and go for jobs and get into schools. And I really see this. I ask people, like, why do you want to do that? This is your goal, but why? Just make money. They can't really answer. I'm like, I'm saying to them, I'm like, listen, I'm going to help you develop this answer for your interview. Let's try to put you into this. Like, why do you want to do this? And the answer is always about the job. It's like, oh, well, if I do that job, I'll know why companies do this and this. I'm like, yeah, but why do you care about that? Can't answer.
Oh, I see.
So it's not the job is not about them. It's how I can make more money. And it seems like that for a lot of people. So, so we've got people working more. And the reason they're working seems just to be, to make money for many people and having less social lives. Okay. Then there is also, if you look at number 3, a large discontent, like unhappiness in society. And a good example of this is the country Belgium, where the guy who made this, who talks about this is from. Listen to this statistic. Every year, 11 million people use over 300 million doses of antidepressant medicines.
Oh, that's a huge number.
Huge number per person. I mean, that is insane.
Per person.
Yeah, so because if you think 11 million people into 300 million.
Almost 30 doses. Okay.
Right, that's an average. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, social media makes people compare their lives to others. And they think that everyone else's life looks okay and fun, but why doesn't theirs? And then they feel alone.
They feel like they are lower to other people.
Or their friends look like they've got these social lives and everything. Why don't I? And I could add to this. I mean, like how I know so many people who are single, who don't want to be. Right? I know many people who, like I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and the person said, in my family, I've got like 8 or 9 cousins.
Okay.
Not one of us is married. None of us have kids. And that's obviously just one person who said that, but I see that with a lot of people. I see a lot of people who want to have kids, who can't fall pregnant, who are trying, who just can't fall pregnant. I think their work and their stress is too high.
Okay.
I see a lot of people walking around with the baby prams, the thing to push the baby in, but I see a dog instead of a baby.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of those people would prefer to have a baby, but I think it's too expensive, so they have a dog instead.
Yeah, but it's related to social media?
No, not just social media, but just this whole thing, right? If we just look at the risk factors, I just see a lot of people who their purpose isn't there. They might want to have a family. I suppose it's more related to number 5. As things become more expensive, buying a house, starting a family, accomplishing your life goals just seems out of reach for so many people.
Right.
Yeah. So if you take away somebody's purpose, if somebody who's like thought their whole life, like I want to grow up, I want to have a family, I want to buy a house, and that just gets further away, your purpose is getting further away. And I'm sure you're going to start feeling hopeless.
Right. You mean when people they want to do something, but they think it's the opportunities or the chance is like getting. It's hard to
harder and harder.
It's
right?
harder and harder,
Sure.
so they will feel like
Sure. So for a person in Taiwan who earns the average salary, there is no ways you could like ever buy a house. It almost seems impossible. And that will take a very long time. What about trying to buy a house first before you have some kids? And then when you have kids, paying for the daycare and stuff so that you can go to work, add that on top of that house payment. It doesn't surprise me that people are pushing a dog instead of pushing a baby.
Or like if people have some certain ideas about raising kids, but they found out it's really hard to raising at the way in this environment. Sure. They just feel they don't know how to do.
And Elon Musk came out yesterday and said society is going to collapse because we aren't having enough babies. Was in the news yesterday. And he's right. I mean, look at how many countries the birth rate is declining. It's below replacement rates.
Yeah.
So, and I know so many people, so few people are having kids. And I don't think that that's what they want, to be honest with you. I think that a lot of people would love to do it, but for all these reasons we've just said, aren't doing it. So I think people are losing their purpose. They feel lonely. They feel, worried. They feel like something is wrong, but they can't exactly point to one thing for their lives, but they don't feel happy.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then what happens if we now put COVID in?
You mean, wait a minute. You mean like nowadays, lots of people already have this kind of...
That's what I was saying here. Are the risk factors present today in society?
Today, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Those 4 things, are they there? So do people feel lonely and isolated? Definitely. Do people feel like a bit hopeless, to be able to achieve the things they want, like lack of meaning?
All right. The basic of a life.
Do people feel anxious, feel like they're free-floating anxiety? Do people feel like something's not right? I think for a lot of people, yes.
It's about today. Okay, maybe. I think because the social media or other things make them feel like fraud in this situation.
For a while now, right?
For a while, yeah.
And then doesn't that... So my first example that I'd say to you from the current world would have been Donald Trump.
Okay.
Before Donald Trump ran for president, he wasn't an unpopular person. He was like a TV personality. He had that show, "You're fired," and everything.
Yeah.
Obama said, the American dream is to be like Donald Trump. But then something happened when he ran for president, and all of a sudden, people lost their minds on both sides. I think there was the populist people who voted for him. And those were all people who felt like this, I think, who felt like he was the guy who was going to help them. Even though one guy being able to help doesn't seem that realistic, but I think that's the thing they put their hope on. And then you got the other group who were going, this guy's the enemy, and they were putting all their blame onto him.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like you've got these factors present in society, and it's really affecting people, and it's causing this craziness to happen.
Crazy bias between...
Sure, because we saw it with the Trump thing, right? I mean, we saw it at the time. We saw so many crazy things going on both sides.
Okay, so Trump is I think it's more like a strong image, like an icon. It's not about himself. It's like 2 groups of people have their own problems or their expectation have to solve their own. Putting to
I'd say to you in
icon.
a different way.
All right.
Trump was a symptom of this problem.
Okay.
Because that wouldn't have happened if people were happy. If people's lives were going okay, the one group wouldn't have needed to elect that guy. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
In a normal time, he wouldn't have been elected, but there were so many desperate people who were looking for someone, a populist person, to help that they elected him. And in a normal time, because America had an actor for a president before, Ronald Reagan was an actor.
Reagan.
Yeah. So, but they didn't go crazy like they went for Trump, and they didn't completely flip because he wasn't that unpopular before.
Not really. Yeah. It's not really controversial.
Controversial, yeah.
Controversial.
Sure.
At this person.
So that was the first one.
Okay.
Right? Then I think you've got some other smaller examples. I think you've got the climate change one, where a lot of people, young people, are saying they're never going to have kids because the world is going to end.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you got a lot of people, I
Um,
think, who are blaming climate change for everything. That's where they're putting their blame. And now we got the COVID one. And we've got COVID, and we've got people looking at that and thinking that's the thing that's going to fix their lives. And that's why I said to you,
Too simple.
we're fighting the wrong virus. The virus is in society. The virus is in how we relate with each other. The virus is how expensive everything has become, forcing people to work so much. Even if you fix COVID, the house prices are not going down. Even if you fix COVID, people's relationships are not going to get that much better. Those problems will still be there. Those are the ones here. But like we said, the vision is narrowed, and they believe if they can fix COVID, it's going to fix their lives. That's the bad husband or the bad wife that they're blaming. They're putting it all now on COVID. Before they were putting it on Trump.
Okay.
But those people who didn't like Trump, when Trump was now out of office, do they feel better? No, they're still talking about him. Because their lives didn't get better when he was gone.
I can understand like a focus on a certain politician like Trump. But okay. In Taiwan, maybe yes, a certain party, certain color party, KMT or DPP.
Sure. I think Taiwan is kind of interesting. I think there's a bit of a lag with this. Because
a delay.
A delay, yeah.
From
Because one
Western,
thing
right?
that's been happening in America a lot is they call it the Great Resignation.
Risk.
All these people just quitting their jobs. They can't find people. They even offer higher salaries, and people just say no. And look at all the homelessness in California. Why are all these people quitting their jobs when there are jobs available and they're not choosing to work?
Oh, the welfare system. So
I don't think it's got
I
anything
think
to do
there's
with the
one.
welfare system.
Or they just
Maybe some of them, but at homeless people on the streets.
they can work, but they just won't, right? They just don't want.
Yeah, they're
to
calling
do
it the Great Resignation. And actually, I think it's kind of a good thing, because why would anybody want to work some shitty job and the salary they're going to get isn't going to make their lives better? They feel hopeless, so they're saying, fuck it. But I haven't seen that here. I mean, here people are still, the mouse on the wheel. People are still chasing. So I think that there's a bit of a delay. And we also haven't had this massive division in Taiwan, like you're saying. There isn't this big thing that's dividing people. So
All right.
I don't know where people would put their blame. I do worry about where people might put it later on. But we haven't had that.
I mean, we haven't to the extreme situation.
We haven't
right?
got there, yeah, I think
We
through
haven't yet.
I think people feel it, but people are still trying, people are still working, still doing everything. I hope it doesn't get to that point.
All right.
But I don't think... I think one of the big ones about Taiwan that's been interesting is, what do people in Taiwan do? Because, I mean, I talk to people a lot. I don't see too many people with, like, serious hobbies and interests. Obviously, there are some. But a lot of people I talk to, and when I used to teach English, like I talked to the kids, and very few of the kids had like a real, like a hobby, something
Hobbies,
that
right?
they did. I
They
think
don't like Taiwanese seldom build up the
yeah.
interest.
So what do people in Taiwan do? I think it's eat, restaurants,
Yeah.
and travel.
Watch a movie.
Yeah, and travel.
Travel.
Everyone I know,
But yeah.
like my fiance and her friends and everyone I know was traveling, going places. Like I talked to people and I was always kind of surprised. Like my fiance, like she's been to Iceland, she's been to certain places.
Oh, you
in
mean
Europe.
the travel means like go abroad?
Yeah, traveling
Okay.
abroad. I think because Taiwan is kind of a small country,
island. Yeah.
it's people's release valve. The way to let the steam out has been like you work really hard and then you
want to
go somewhere.
do something big.
Yeah.
So the go abroad like seems
Yeah.
a big thing for them.
And I think maybe you can tell me what you think, but I think for people in Taiwan, that travel was a very important part of life. It was this thing that really you got a chance to just get away from, the normal repeat of going to work.
I think the go abroad is like some certain big thing in their like a year plan.
Sure.
They probably need to go out like 2 or 3 times,
Sure.
and I think it's a very important activities.
Sure. And also just all the people I know who are having the vaccine, I asked them why they're having the vaccine. It's overwhelming. Everybody says, I want to travel again.
They want to get out. They want to
Yeah.
go to somewhere like so different from Taiwan. It's so the culture or the environment or the language
Sure.
totally different from
So I think that
Taiwan.
was their way to escape, was to get out of
Oh,
Taiwan. for a
to
little
escape
bit.
the reality.
Mm.
They will call it like a recharge.
Yeah. So
But it's not. It's different. Is it different?
well, I
from
think
other
also the other
countries?
thing that's different here is that we haven't had the crazy lockdowns.
I mean, like traveling. I think in other countries, people also have they also want to travel.
I
don't
think
know.
so, but I think if you live in a bigger country, you can actually travel internally a lot more easily.
All right.
Whereas
okay.
I think here people were traveling. I mean, it's just what I'm thinking from just looking at people, right? But
Uh-huh.
if you travel inside Taiwan, it's also crazy. I mean, the traffic and everything.
Because it's
is
a small
hard.
island. Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm
No.
saying. So because it's a small island, people really, that was
Want
their
to
one thing, was
go
to
out.
get away.
Yeah.
You worked hard because you thought, yes, I work, save money, and I can get away. It was a
Mm.
big thing for people.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we haven't had the crazy lockdown. So we haven't had that real extreme isolation people have had in other countries. I think we're lucky. Like, I don't think we can really understand what it's like for people, in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen a few TV shows with my fiance. We watch it and we look at how people react, and we're like, wow, these people are losing their minds.
Mm.
And you can see that. I mean, imagine if you were stuck in your apartment for like 3 months and you couldn't see people. That's crazy. I don't think we can really understand what people have gone through in other countries.
I mean, like if they really locked down,
Lockdown.
In the house for like
Yeah, for months at a time.
months.
We can't actually appreciate how much that has hurt people, I think, because we've been lucky that it hasn't happened here.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we haven't had too much craziness here yet, because of these things. But again, I think people in Taiwan do feel this, and that's why the vaccine often has been this thing. People say, why are you doing the vaccine? I don't think the vaccine is for COVID. I think the vaccine is for travel. Because everybody's having the vaccine, not because they're scared of COVID. From the people I've talked to, they're having the vaccine because they want to travel. It doesn't sound like they're scared of a virus. They're just saying, I want my life back.
Yeah, I think most people, they want to go back to normal life. Let's
Yeah.
think if they get vaccine, they can just live like before.
Yeah.
They can go anywhere they want.
Sure.
Especially for travel, I think.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's a false promise, because yes, you might be able to travel, but that's not going to change the house prices. It's not going to change people having kids. So maybe travel was the one thing people had left, but again, it's not going to be the thing that fixes everything.
That is a really huge topics, because it's like people have the problems, anxiety, unhappy, have to solve, right? So they don't. It's a really big. So you couldn't fix it by themselves. So they want to escape by traveling. So right now the traveling is stopped by COVID because of COVID. So they right now only focus on how to fix this problem, right? Fix this connection. But and then they forgot actually they have a big problem for them. But because it's not easy for a person to do things to solve it, so they try to not look at it.
What I said to you earlier is this problem can only happen when those 4 things are met. Even if we fix COVID, the 4 things are still going to be there. Trump, COVID, they're going to keep coming. These are all symptoms of the real virus. The real virus is how we live as people, and what we're doing is not healthy. And that's why people feel this way. So it doesn't matter even if we fix COVID. That's just the current blame. It's not going to fix it.
It will have there will be more Trumps and COVID in the future because we
people
didn't
are
solve
weak to this now. People are susceptible to the mass formation. So as soon as COVID goes away, people, I'm telling you, are going to find another thing to put the blame on. And it's going to keep happening until we fix the real virus. And the real virus is the way we're not living, I think, the way that humans are supposed to live, the way we've always lived. We've changed things so much.
Okay.
And that's why I say we're fighting the wrong virus.
It's like the way to think about how we want to live, how we want to react to other
Or what's
people.
the healthy way to live?
Oh, a healthy way.
Because when
it's not really body healthy. It's about
No.
the mental.
It's way more about the mental. So what makes a person happy in general? Right? I mean, you want to grow up, you want to get educated, you want to find someone to love, you want to possibly have some kids, you want to be able to buy a house, you want to go on holidays, have some time to spend with your friends. All these things that people aspire to for years. And most of those things are just not possible anymore. People are there's more and more single people. The rate of people, when people have sex for the first time, lose their virginity, is going up. You can see the statistics if you search for it. So people having less love, you know, less meaningful relationships, hookup culture. Some people are having sex, but I think relationships are way less. Less people having kids. House pricing is so high. Right? Working all the time just to be able to afford things because inflation is going so high. So how are people ever going to be happy?
Okay. I'm being asked questions like what kind of top three things or scenarios or anything that make you feel pressure. It looks like a simple question, but I realized no, it isn't. It isn't. Because the first thing, what I thought is all about material. No, it's not about material. It's more about like habits or all about myself. Like what I think the top three things or it's all about myself. It's like habits.
Sure.
Like, but actually, I think maybe it's not. It's like a more. It's like a more deeper layer.
Sure. And do you want to know another thing that people are putting is the blame? Money. Oh, if I just had more money, everything would be okay. That's why they're working so much.
No, it's not about money.
It's not about money.
Yeah, it's not about money.
But that's the thing, is that it narrows your focus. So you blame something. I don't have enough money. So if I just had enough money, my life will get better. So now I work harder. I give more and more of my life to the job because I want to get the money. I'm focused on fixing this because that's going to fix my life. But it isn't. Because those other problems that you're not looking at are still going to be there.
Yeah.
And if you're spending all your time getting money, you're not spending time building relationships and hobbies and things that are going to truly make you happy.
Yes.
So that's the thing, right? And I think that's probably where we are in Taiwan now. I think everybody's just focused on making money. Like I look at these poor guys on the Food Panda on these motorcycles. They're doing that, I think, because you can make a little bit more money than some other shitty job. And you're just pushing so you can get a bit more money and push. But while you're pushing, you're not living. And then later you're going to need to catch up because now you're going to lose those relationships. And that study done by Harvard before showed that the real secret to happiness is relationships.
Yeah.
And you want to do what your parents did. You want to build your family. You want to have something that will last.
Okay. You mean like the relationship is like you and the people around you, like parents, family, or your like kids, your partners.
Exactly. All those people. That's what makes you happy. That's what makes humans happy. We're these like connection machines.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Like a sharing.
Sure.
Sharing not about materials, but also about the thinking, the thoughts.
And people think like a new pair of boots or a new Gucci bag's going to make me happy.
No.
It's not. I know people who make good money, who buy lots of bags. And you know what? When I speak to them, what they really want? A girlfriend or a boyfriend.
Yeah, they think they buy those things they can attractive.
Yeah.
They can put them into some social level and can attract other people's to
because it's easy, right?
It's
easy to say it's money. Because if it's money, then all these other things become simple. I forget about them. It's just money. It's oversimplified.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. So it's money, is COVID, is Trump, is climate change, it's like ideologies of like crazy like things. I don't want to mention them because people get upset, but any of these things that people are focusing on, saying that's the problem. If you're a real feminist, the patriarchy is a problem. And otherwise it's what Joe Biden said, the biggest problem in America is white supremacy. I've never met a white supremacist in my life. I don't know anybody who has, but apparently this is some massive problem. It's too simple.
They want something to blame for.
Yeah, there's always something that's wrong.
Too simple.
Distracting everybody from what's really wrong. And what's really wrong is this virus I'm telling you about, that the way we live has become unhealthy. So if we don't fix the root, we're just going to keep having this crazy bullshit, whether it's politics or viruses or anything, because of this real virus.
How did this happen? Is it about education or just about the social media and internet?
I'd say it's probably one of the big ones has been the debasement of money.
Debasement?
Yeah. So if you look at what happened in 2007, 2008, when they bailed those banks out and they started printing money like crazy, what has happened from all this money printing is interest rates have gone progressively lower. Nobody can save their money in the bank and get any kind of return. Why have house prices gone up in Taiwan so much? I mean, in Taiwan, if you want to keep up with inflation, you need your money to grow. Where does it grow? Buying properties.
Yeah.
People are taking out ridiculously large loans just to buy a house. Why? Because it's the only way. And then you got to pay these crazy amounts of money every month for these houses.
You mean the economic or the financial status is not stable, so people have to chasing.
And because the money is worth less.
Have put more effort into the research. So right now people are just forget.
And FOMO.
All right.
Because if I don't buy a house now, it's going to get more expensive. I'll never be able to afford it. I've got to buy a house now, so I've got to take out that loan. And once I take out that loan, now I'm going to pay like 50% of my salary to buy that house every month. So I've got to work even harder and spend less time with my friends and spend less time with my family because I'm out there working because I need to buy that house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, where are the problems? I think that's the one big one. Like, go back 50, 60 years. Like, a guy could work, his wife could stay at home, he could raise a family, buy a house, send his kids to university, maybe buy them a cheap car when they finished.
I mean,
Who could do that now?
That's not a big problem that people have to pay lots of attention on it. Just so because it's like simple at a time, so people have the more attention. They can put more focus on other things. It's like
the more you have to work, the less time you have for life.
Yes.
Sure. So why do you need to spend more time at work? Is it purely just to get rich? I don't think so.
Yeah, because they just want to have they want to give their family a better life, better quality of life. So they just keep working.
Sure. But to provide that decent quality of life has changed. It's gotten just that decent, normal quality of life that most people want.
It's harder.
It's harder and harder and harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
So you got to work harder and harder and harder and spend less and less and less time doing stuff for you.
Yes.
And the less you spend time doing stuff for you, those 4 things become true for everyone. And when the 4 things become true, that's when society goes fucking crazy for politics or for viruses or anything, because people's lives are not good.
Okay.
So that's why I keep saying we're fighting the wrong virus.
All right.
Anyway, I want to get back to this whole thing,
Okay.
right? So we're talking about the results of this, and you can see it here. So the people want something to connect their anxiety to. They need the thing to blame. They're looking for an explanation for this feeling they feel, this anxiety.
Yeah.
And if the free-floating anxiety is highly present in a population, and then the media gives a narrative that shows the object of the anxiety, and then also describes a strategy to deal with the anxiety, then all the anxiety connects to that object. What is the strategy to deal with COVID right now?
Vaccine.
And what is everyone? Even in Taiwan, we had one local case because a woman got bitten by a rat. But that doesn't count for me. We haven't had a local case that was just spreading for 35 days or something? But yet everyone wants to get vaccinated, even with no cases.
They think they are prepared.
That's
for the coming
I don't believe
Omicron or coming.
I don't believe that for a minute. the vaccine is what they think is going to give them their lives back. The vaccine is the answer to the anxiety that they feel. They might tell you it's because of that, but I do not believe it. The vaccine is the answer to the problem. And we fix the problem, we get life back. And I think for a lot of people, that means get to travel again, because it was the one thing they really enjoyed doing. So remember, this isn't logical. This is hypnosis. This is mass formation, where people look at it. Because like I said to you,
yeah, because lots of people, they are talking about vaccines. If I get vaccine, then I can do blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And those things, blah, 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 those things,
Yeah.
I think you can do without vaccine.
Sure, I don't think that they're getting the vaccine because they're scared of getting sick. We don't have virus.
They say,
But
if
it's for
I
the
get
future.
vaccine, I can go to gym.
You can already go to the gym.
Yeah. Like, I can protect my family. I can do lots of things.
Sure.
Which,
And then let's talk about it, because I just looked this week.
Yeah.
Every day is like 16 new cases, 20 new cases, 10 new cases, 8 new cases, 5 new cases, 20 new cases, all imported. Most of them, I think, are breakthroughs, because I don't think you're allowed to travel if you're not
without
vaccinated.
vaccine, yeah.
So then again, where's the logic? This is logical people believing something illogical. Why?
And they still believe herd immunity.
But why? Even though there's evidence to show that the breakthroughs are there. We hear about them all the time. Even the woman who got bitten by a rat is double vaccinated. So what's the logic behind their belief? There isn't logic. And that's what I'm saying to you. Because it isn't logical, it's because they need this thing. They got the thing to blame, the thing to fix it, and they're focused on that. And again, as we saw, any objecting voices, they're going to fight those voices. And they're going to love the voices that are telling them they're right.
Oh my God.
It explains it, right?
Yeah, that it can explain why they are so obvious facts.
Yeah.
Like while they think the
Sure.
logic, it doesn't make sense, but
From 1 vaccine to 2 to 3. Now I've heard you need, like some places, 3 plus 3 doses, to you won't get it, to you won't spread it, to you have symptoms, but now even that's changing. And it doesn't matter what changes, they're still going for it, because there is nothing else. It's the only solution they can see. And what they want is, it's not about COVID. What they want is their lives back. They want the feeling of anxiety to go away. They want life. They want to feel happy. And because we're humans, we have brains that can be hacked. And I'm going to show you some examples of some cool stuff just now. That's what we're doing. We don't want to see the other stuff. What's wrong with your life? That woman, that man, the reason. And how do I fix it? Vaccine. All right, that's it. Yeah, but Dad, don't show me information. It's vaccine. But don't you want to know about the break? Forget it. Vaccine.
yes,
That's what's happening.
yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. And it was get Trump out. You know, what's that word that they did that when you kick the president out? Impeach Trump. Is that going to give you a life back? I don't think so. It's focusing on this one thing that they wanted to happen. And the remedy, the solution for that one thing. And then you see it here, okay? That they do at the same time they describe a strategy, the media, the object of anxiety becomes, then all the anxiety connects to that object. People are willing to follow the strategy to deal with this object, no matter what the cost is. Doesn't matter what I have to pay, I'm following the strategy because it's mass formation. I've been hypnotized. And not because of anything wrong with me, not because I'm not smart, nothing to do with that, but probably, as we said, based on how you find your emotional stability. If you're a person who follows, then that's you. And that's what you do. And you follow that thing, and you're listening, and you're trusting. And then some other people who might not trust that much are looking at it and saying, wait a minute, man, this doesn't make sense. Look at the logic, but they won't listen.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter, because even when this is over, if we don't fix the root cause, we're going to get another one. Something else.
Yeah, something else. Oh, okay, right. I think it's like people need to find a way to relieve their unsatisfaction.
Dissatisfaction with life.
Dissatisfaction.
Yeah, sure. And with its life, where do you look? How do you know what's causing it? You can just feel it, but you don't know what's causing it. And now the media gives you the thing to focus on. Like, thank you very much. I'm just going to focus on
telling you
that.
how to do that.
Yeah, and because we're humans, because we can be hypnotized, it's not our fault. It's happening to us. And then, look, maybe some people might be taking advantage of this. We're not going to get into that. It's definitely possible. Maybe someone knows this. I'm sure people know that this happens. And maybe they're driving more of it to get some kind of a gain, but that's not today's topic. But the point is, this is important and it explains so much.
Yeah, explain a lot.
It really,
a
really
lot
explains a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I wanted to show you something else.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
some crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
So I want to show you, there was an experiment done, okay? And this experiment was done, let me see if I can find it. Here it is here, called the Asch conformity experiment. It was done in 1951.
Conformity.
And they wanted to see how much people would follow others, even when logic, like, disagreed. So you can see here, if you look at this picture, all right, this is what they do. They would get some people, okay, and then an innocent participant. And they would show people the lines.
Okay.
And I think the innocent person would always go last, right? And when the innocent person went last, they'd show people, they'd say, which line matches these lines most? And all the people would give a completely wrong answer, an easy to see wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, at the end, the innocent person would have a chance to answer. And I think most of the time, the person gave the incorrect answer, even though they could see it was incorrect, just to follow the group.
The groups. I see.
So when we're talking about this, the 35 to 45% of people who'll just follow the narrative, you can see that this will happen, right? Pretty easily, right? Yeah, this is what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where the results, the findings are here, right? Over the 12 critical trials, 75% of participants conformed at least once, and 25% of participants never conformed. So 3 out of 4 people could give the wrong answer, even though their eyes were showing them that the answer was...
They would doubt themselves.
Yeah.
Why others talking about like this?
So that shows you that experiments have been done, that humans do this. That the power of the group is so important to us that even when our eyes can see it, we will say something else. And I want people to think about that, because look at what's currently happening. And if 3 out of 4 people are doing this, it must be happening somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's a really simple test.
And then I want to show you one more, which is also really, really crazy and very, very scary. Have you ever heard of the Milgram experiment?
No.
So the Milgram experiment, let's see if I can load it up. So it's an experiment where they try to see if people would hurt other people because an authority figure told them to do it.
Oh, that one. I've heard it.
You've heard about that, where they
before.
shock people, right? So I can actually show, I've got a little bit of a video here. And we can have a look.
And I think that's the one way they explain their Jewish
Yes, what
history,
happened to them, right? So this is a shortened version.
Nazi.
A decade earlier, psychologist Stanley Milgram had also looked at how we respond to authority. In order to understand how people were induced to obey unjust regimes and participate in atrocities such as the Holocaust, he set up an experiment. Volunteers were told they were taking part in scientific research to improve memory.
Would you open those and tell me which of you is which, please? Teacher. Learn.
One's a teacher, one's a learner.
Separated by a screen, the teacher would ask the learner questions in a word game and administer an electric shock when the answer was incorrect. He was told to increase the voltage with each wrong answer.
Cloud. Horse. Rock. House. Answer. Wrong. 150 volts. Answer. Horse.
Experiment. That's all. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, please.
Continue, please. Go right on.
I refuse to go on. Let me out.
He refuses to go on. The experiment requires you continue, teacher. Please continue.
Participants didn't know that the learner was really an actor, and the so-called shocks harmless.
You're going to get a shock. 180 volts.
I can't stand the pain. Let me out of
You
here.
can't stand it. I'm not going to kill that man there. I mean, who's going to take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman? I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please. All right, next one. Slow. Walk, dance, truck, music.
Two-thirds of volunteers were prepared to administer a potentially fatal electric shock when encouraged to do so by what they perceived as a legitimate authority figure. In this case, a man in a white coat.
375 volts. I think something's happened to that fellow in there. I don't get no answer. He was hollering with less voltage. Can't you check in and see if he's all right, please?
Milgram's findings horrified America. They showed that decent American citizens were as capable of committing acts against their conscience as the Germans had been under the Nazis.
Crazy, right?
I think because people think they have guilty, but they can shift the guilty to the authority. So that's why they are gonna keep doing that.
Sure. And then you see people who are just saying, like in Australia right now, people go and say, why are you doing this? Can't you see that this is not right? And the people say, listen, man, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
And that's some scary stuff, right? I wanted to show you a quick picture as well. The Holocaust, that was the thing with the Jewish people in Germany, was legal. Hiding Jews was a crime. In America, slavery was legal. Freeing slaves was a crime. Segregation, keeping people separate, was legal. Protesting racism was also a crime. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's moral.
Yes.
I want everybody to think about that when you see this. Like taking away people's rights because they will or won't do something. You got to think very, very carefully if that's the route you want to go. Because as we've seen, people are okay to do it. And people will go along with the crowd from both of these examples. But just because of that doesn't make it right. And look at what's happened in history. Look at the bad, terrible examples that have happened when people have done this. And that's, I suppose, the good news, is that one of the things that professor talks about is what we can do. And what he says is that the 30%, the 20 to 30% of people who aren't hypnotized, you got to keep speaking. Because if you keep speaking, you keep this voice going. All the really bad things happened when that voice got silenced. Because once the voice got silenced, who else were they going to try and attack? Then they came for the people who were just going along with it. The people who can see it, the people who aren't hypnotized, need to keep talking to everyone. Everywhere you go, you need to be telling people the stuff that you can see that's not logical, and just showing it nicely and gently to them, and just keep that voice in their head, because eventually they wake up. Something happens and they wake up to it.
Right.
All right. And this doesn't mean that they are good people or bad people or anything. It's just the people who, for some reason, don't get hypnotized must keep the voice going.
Okay.
And if we keep the voice going, we can avoid some really, really bad stuff happening.
To stop things.
And to finish this one, I had one little other video. This is a guy who was a Jewish guy in the Holocaust. And he talks about how it happened. It's a short video.
One day, in those early 1930s, you can read an inscription on the benches. Jews must not sit on these benches. You could say, it's unpleasant, it's not fair, it's not right. But after all, there are so many benches around. You can sit somewhere else. Of course you can. There was a swimming pool, and over its door an inscription read, Jews are forbidden to enter. You could say, well, pleasant this is not, but there are so many places in Berlin where you can take a bath or swim, so many lakes, canals, it's nearly like Venice. At the same time, You can read somewhere else, Jews must not belong to German singing associations. So what? All right. They want to sing, they want to make music. Let them just meet somewhere else, they will do their singing. All right. What comes up later is an order, really. More of an order than of an inscription. Non-Aryan children must not play with Aryan children, with the German children. All right, they'll play on their own. And then you read, we only sell bread and food to Jews after 5 p.m. Right, less choice. This makes your life harder. But after all, after 5 p.m. you can still do your shopping. And that's how it is done, step by step, slowly. And they become acquainted with that thought, familiar with the idea that they are different people, that they are alien people, that they are the people that carry germs, that cause pandemics. And this now is a horror. What came later was something that developed immediately. Jews could not get jobs, they could not emigrate, and then, quickly, Jews would be sent to ghettos, to Kaunas, to Riga, to my ghetto. Auschwitz did not fall suddenly from the skies. It was pittering-pattering in all those tiny steps. It was approaching until what happened here behind me did happen.
So do you understand what he was talking about? Small steps.
Mm-hmm.
First, it was something, Jews can't go to the library.
Mm.
Okay, they can read somewhere else. And the next step, and the next step. And people kept quiet.
All right.
And the more they kept quiet, the worse it got. And then it was they can't get jobs. And eventually, the bad stuff comes later.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we now? Which stage are we at now? Because I watch the news and I see people who don't want to take a vaccine that can't go to the shops or are separated or saying you're not allowed to have jobs.
Yes.
What comes next? Are we going to be the same people who look back and say, how did we let some bad stuff happen?
I heard some people already say, exploit their rights.
Yeah. I've heard people talking about holding them down and have a person called a vaccinator who's going to hold you down and then he's going to come. I saw Jim Cramer, the guy who does the stocks, talking about getting the military involved in America.
Oh my.
It's human nature.
Uh-huh.
This is what we do. This is who we are. When our lives are shit, we're susceptible to this mass formation. And when we're susceptible, we don't see the other stuff because we're just focused on this thing. And when we do this, really, really, really bad stuff happens. Don't forget history. Look at this thing. We can avoid bad stuff happening. But if we just shut up and think this is going to pass, this could get really, really bad.
Oh my.
That's all I have to say about that. And yeah, except one thing. Let's fight the real virus. Let's stop just chasing money. Let's find a way. I don't know how we're going to do it. But we got to find a way to live. We got to find a way to have lives that mean something. Because if we don't, this is going to keep happening. It's going to keep going until something snaps. Until society crashes in some bad way. And then all these people with their nice, comfortable lives, all of us with our convenient, comfortable lives, and we look back and we say, what did we throw away?
You mean like really big crash, then people will wake up.
Just look at through history. It's happened all the time. Societies crash. They didn't think they would. Look what happened to the Romans. Mm-hmm. All these societies crash. But possibly we still have time to do something about it. But not if we keep following the road that we're going on. So, it's for us. We got to do something.
Yes. Oh my God, I think that's really a really big topics. The topics is just like more like discussion, like
Sure.
like it's only about it's like a piece of an iceberg. We only can see a little bit, but
see the top,
actually we only but
Sure.
actually lots of things behind the ocean.
Sure. So, yeah.
Right.
Let's move on to our next topic. Hope you guys found that useful. Yeah, and just as I think you just said it, it's another topic, it's another discussion. That's the key, discussions.
Not
forcing people into doing all sorts of crazy things.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. We'll see you on the next topic.
See you.